Welcome back into that Sean podcast. And we doing this again. It is draft class review time. Cat Daddy, what's on your mind?
Ooh, I think we're at the halfway point. So actually, with this episode, we'll be beyond the halfway points.
We're almost there.
Yeah, and just thinking of all the classes that we've talked about, there have really been a lot of good classes, and I think a lot of it's due to the depth that was in this draft class, but there's been a lot of teams who did really well. Unfortunately, I think there may be one or two teams that we talk about today that I don't feel quite as favorable with.
We'll see. As we go, we're just going to jump right into it. So, first team on the dock, we're going to talk about those Atlanta Falcons. A total of 8 selections in this draft. First pick that they picked, Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. Somebody called that. Not going to say who, but somebody called that.
I'll look at my notes to find out who that was.
Second round, pick number 38. I'm going to need Cat Daddy's assistance for this name. It is Arnold
Abaquide from Penn State.
That is edge rusher from Penn State. Thank you for that assistance. Then, after Abaquide, see, I got it. In the same round, they selected Troy Anderson, linebacker, Montana State. Come around the third round, they select the second QB to come off the board, Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. Then, also in the third round, they get edge rusher out of West Kentucky, D'Angelo Malone. Now we got to fast forward because they did not have a 4th round pick because I believe they had to trade up for, was it Ridder? Or
I think
no.
Abaquide they traded up for.
Yeah, Abaquide they traded up for. All right, so in the 5th round, they select Tyler Algier, running back out of BYU. Very good player. Then in the 6th round, they select Justin Schaefer, offensive guard out of Georgia. And then they decide later on in that round to double dip in Georgia. Get John Fitzpatrick, tight end. Any thoughts on this class, Cat Daddy?
Coming into the draft with the state of the roster, they really needed to add the best available player every round. That's what they need to go for. Best available. I don't have a problem with them selecting Drake London at number 8, the first wide receiver off the board. But considering the depth that this class had at wide receiver, I was a little bit surprised that they decided to pass on Charles Cross. However, with London, they're easily upgrading one of the worst wide receiver units in the league. And I like how they took advantage of the edge depth and they double dipped that position with Abaquide in the 2nd and then D'Angelo Malone in the 3rd. I really like that Malone selection. Not so much the Abaquide one. It's not that I don't like him. I just don't see why Atlanta traded up 5 spots to get him. And they also gave up a 4th round selection to do so. But they have 2 young edge rushers. They can pair them with Grady Jarrett to their defensive line, which I think is going to help improve what was probably one of the worst defensive line units in the league. And then in the 3rd rounds, you're thinking with Kenny Pickett, the only quarterback off the board, Atlanta fans had to be wondering if and when they would be taking a quarterback themselves. And I didn't see why Desmond Ridder was the second quarterback off the board. But good for them for not reaching.
So I know you're not a fan of Desmond Ridder, but apparently, who's the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons?
Arthur Smith.
And do you know what one of the very popular comps for Desmond Ridder is?
Is it Ryan Tannehill?
It is Ryan Tannehill.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Athletic quarterback.
So it makes quite a bit of sense.
It does. It does.
So, I mean, he fits that style that Arthur Smith likes. Now, I'm also going to explain another thing because I like this class. Arnold Abaquide, you do know that there are people who believe that he's a better edge rusher than Jermaine Johnson. There are people who had him ranked higher. I know people in the Dallas area were screaming, even though Jermaine Johnson's on the board, they said if you go edge rusher, go Abaquide in the first round instead of Johnson. So he has a lot of fans out there.
Yeah,
very good players. So we'll see what happens. They
him
need
as
an
a
edge.
Player. Like, I like him as a player. It's just the fact that they traded up 5 spots when I don't think anybody else was going to be taking him, at least not that I know of. So it's just the whole value thing that I didn't like for that pick.
Now, that being said, with Drake London, I get it. Sure-handed guy, big-bodied guy. I mean, a guy with a large catching radius. Now, something we didn't do in our news and other episodes. Didn't they just trade for another wide receiver?
Oh, they did. Atlanta just traded for, tip of my tongue,
which would definitely. Oh, Brian Edwards.
There we go, from the Raiders.
Brian Edwards. Now, when you look at their their let's say receiving core,
yeah, that's a better way.
It looks a lot better than it did before. They're starting to make really good moves. Now you have Drake London, Brian Edwards as your top 2 receivers on the outside, with Kyle Pitts as, let's say, more of a slot. And then you can have like what's his name, Zekamitis, more of a speed guy with Arden Tate settling in as a 4th wide receiver, which is what he should be. I like what they're doing. Oh, also, let's not forget Cordero Patterson's there.
Yeah.
I think they made some really nice moves this offseason.
I think they did.
Oh, this is going to be fun because it seems like we have a different idea on this draft than because people don't know we were agreeing on all those other drafts. This is going to be fun.
This is where it's at. I don't like how with the state of the offensive line, why they waited until the 6th round to get an offensive lineman.
I'll agree with you there, but I mean, you know something, it's a copycat league. You know who did that last year and had a lot of success? Cincinnati Bengals.
That's true.
Now they have a quarterback, so you know.
And Atlanta came into this draft with probably one of the worser defensive units out there, and they lost a couple people in free agency. So, getting a couple edges, a linebacker, it's a good haul.
Let's be honest, they haven't had a legit edge since John Abraham.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Actually, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. So we're going to go with the Carolina Panthers.
No, we're not. We have to do favorite, least favorites.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I keep forgetting stuff. My bad. All right. Yes. What is your favorite pick here?
of all Atlanta's picks, my most favorite was Tyler Algier in the 5th round because
I already know what it is.
for the past 3 seasons,
Ooh.
the Falcons' leading rusher has totaled less than 700 yards. Past 3 seasons. Their last 1,000-yard rusher was Devontae Freeman in 2016. Now, I'm not saying Tyler Algier is going to light the world on fire and going to be the guy who gets him 1,000 yards, but I think they're heading in the right direction with this Tyler Algier pick. And over the past 2 years, he's rushed for 2,700 yards, 36 touchdowns. Give him an offensive line. Let him work.
All right, so my favorite pick is Troy Anderson out of Montana State. He's going to do a lot more than just play weak side, middle, Mike linebacker for them. He's going to rush. He's going to do a lot of blitzing. He's going to play coverage. This guy's going to be a very good player for them. And, of course, they have that hole because of, Foye Alukin going to Jacksonville.
Yep.
All right, your least favorite pick.
Should be no surprise. Desmond
I already know
Ridder
what it is.
being the second quarterback off the board. They had Matt Corral, they had Malik Willis, they
You
had
were
Sam
just not a
Howell.
fan.
But, if he's looking for someone who's similar to Ryan Tannehill, then Desmond Ridder is probably the closest of this bunch. So, in that sense, it makes sense. I'm glad that Atlanta waited until the 3rd round and didn't take a quarterback any sooner. I just am not a big fan of Desmond Ridder.
Honestly, I think it should have been Malik Willis because, the hometown brethren there. But hey, I like Ridder more than you do.
That's true.
My least favorite is Justin Schaefer out of Georgia. Has nothing to do with the player. I'm sure he's a fine player. I'm sure if they can develop him, maybe he'll become a good developmental guy or a swing guard. But I do agree with you. Why in the world are we taking an offensive lineman in the 6th round when you need more offensive line help? Sorry, that's more my issue with the pick. All right, sorry, technical difficulties over here. All right, now we can move on to the Carolina pick. And Carolina has 6 selections in this draft. They did not come in with a lot of draft capital. But they started out fast and furious, real nice, with Ikem Ekwamu, offensive tackle out of North Carolina State. Now, they didn't have a 2nd round pick in this draft. Who did they give that up for? Was that Gilmore? Or was that the Florida guy?
I think CJ Henderson.
Was that Henderson?
I think
All
so.
right, and so then in the 3rd round, they get Matt Corral, QB out of Mississippi. Then in the 4th round, they take a flyer on a linebacker, Brandon Smith out of Penn State. Now in the 6th round, they get Virginia Tech edge Amari Barno. And then later in the 6th round, they get Tennessee offensive guard Cade Mays. And then in the 7th round, they get Kalyn Barnes, cornerback out of Baylor. Now, I'm going to start this one. I think we're going to disagree on this one. Again, I love the Ekwamu pick. They had their pick. They had their choice. So, I'm not going to give them that great of a credit for taking the best tackle on the board. Now, where this draft changes is we'll see how C.J. Henderson develops, because he's part of this draft, in my opinion. He can either elevate it or downgrade it, because he's not a sure thing. Matt Corral. This is interesting. I still like the player. I don't like him for Carolina. I just don't. I don't like him for Carolina. I would have liked him more for Atlanta or Tennessee even. I don't like him for Carolina. I just don't know why, but I think Carolina's a team that could ruin this guy. Brandon Smith. I mean, he can hit, but he plays way too out of control. He has zero discipline. Dude's an athlete, though. I mean, Barno, pretty good pick. Mays, excellent pick. And Barnes, we'll see what happens. Your thoughts?
Coming into this draft, the Panthers had the number 6 pick, and then they didn't have another selection until 137. Now, for what they were working with, I thought the Panthers did a really good job. Taking Ikem Ekwamu at number 6 was an absolute no-brainer. So you're right there. You can't go wrong with this. This is who it is, Ikem Ekwamu. And it's really good for them, because the last time they had a good left tackle, I think, was Jordan Gross. And that was, nearly a decade ago? The 12-13 seasons, somewhere around there. So if Carolina really does want to develop a power run game, then Ekwamu was the best offensive tackle to go with. So in that sense, they chose the right guy. In the third rounds, I love the Matt Corral pick. As you know, he was my quarterback 1, even though they had to go up and get him, which means, again, you're giving more resources to the quarterback position. I like the Matt Corral pick. He's going to be able to challenge Sam Darnold for the starting job, but as I've said before, I don't think any rookie quarterback should be starting this year, especially not week 1. I thought the Brandon Smith and Amari Barno picks were really, really good, solid. I mean, they were third-day picks. What are you hoping for the third-day pick? Filling depth, having upside, and I do like those two. But Carolina used more resources and traded up for Brandon Smith, so there's that. But they rebounded nicely later on because they had Cade Mays. So for a team that has struggled with offensive line play, they're walking out with their franchise left tackle, and then they're adding depth with Cade Mays, who's capable of playing all 5 positions on the line. So if you have somebody go down with an injury, next man up. Cade Mays can play anywhere you need him. And Kalyn Barnes, 7th round pick. Even if he is not the best defender, you know that he has the speed to be able to contribute on special teams. And you know Matt Rule likes him because he recruited and coached Kalyn Barnes while at Baylor.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to start. My favorite pick is Cade Mays. Here's the thing. If Atlanta would pick Cade Mays, Atlanta would have knocked this draft out of the park. And Cade Mays was available for them to pick. They went with Justin Schaefer instead.
They went with the guy who's still at Georgia, not the guy who transferred from Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's that. So all I'm saying is I see a path for this guy to make the team and possibly even start this year.
Absolutely.
All right. Your favorite? I already know it.
You already know it. It's Matt Corral. Getting him in the 3rd round, getting my quarterback 1 in the 3rd round just feels like theft. But what you were saying before about, the player, but not necessarily liking the fit, I don't feel overly confident with Matt Corral there. being coached by Matt Rule. And I don't want to. The fear is that he's going to be wasted there, and they're going to do some stupid stuff on offense and not surround him with the talent or give him the coaching that he needs. And there's always a fear that Matt Rule is going to get fired, and then he has to go through a whole coaching change and a whole regime change. They had to trade up and get him.
Situation for him to go into.
I know. Yeah, not ideal, but I do like me some Carolina. But it's just another quarterback that resources had to go into. You're giving up some sort of draft capital to get Matt Corral. It's like,
Next pick, my least favorite. Brandon Smith, linebacker, Penn State. I don't know what he's going to do here. Are you going to be able to develop this guy? I don't like this coaching staff. Again, poor fit for this guy. This guy needs to go someplace like the Ravens or the Steelers where he can go downhill and he can learn to play football. This guy has no clue what he's doing. He overshoots gaps. He's fast. Yes, he's a straight up athlete, but I just think this is going to be a poor fit for him.
Yeah, this is one of those. I mean, let me preface all this by saying I really liked all of their picks. They had 6 selections. I thought they did a pretty good job with all 6. Coming in, they needed a franchise left tackle. They needed a franchise quarterback. Well, they took care of the tackle in the first round. But yeah, you have a potential franchise quarterback in the 3rd round. So a lot of potential. And then you add some more high upside defenders. So Brandon Smith falls into the category of high upside. So my initial response is my least favorite pick? None. I liked them all. But if you're forcing me to choose, similar to you, it's going to be Brandon Smith. I know. It's Brandon Smith. Just because it seems like he's more athlete and less football player. And in this case, it might be a bad thing for him.
Very much so. All right, next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they traded back, and then they traded completely out of the first round. And then they picked up Logan Hall, defensive lineman out of Houston. And then in the same round, in the second round, they picked up Luke Gadecki, offensive guard out of Central Michigan. You see what I did there? Confidence, baby, confidence. Then in the 3rd round, they selected Rashad White, running back out of Arizona State. In the 4th round, they select Cade Otton, tight end out of Washington. Jake Camarda, punter out of
you already know what my least favorite pick is.
You already know. He loves that selection. Then in the 5th round, they selected Zion McCollum, cornerback out of Sam Houston State. Hey, Cat Day, at least it wasn't the 2nd round. If you've been following the draft, Tampa took a kicker in the 2nd round that did not work out.
Oh, Roberto Aguayo. Oh, man.
And in the 6th round, they took Ko Kieft, tight end out of Minnesota. And then in the 7th round, they took Andre Anthony, edge out of LSU. Go ahead, speak about this draft, Cat Daddy. I think we might agree on this one.
Oh, we might. We'll see. Similar to last year, the Bucs come into this draft having no really big glaring needs in their roster, so they can come in and they can take best available player. And a lot of that's thanks to Tom Brady unretiring, so their quarterback situation is a little bit more solid, able to get some of those free agencies coming in, so that helped a lot. So they had that luxury of just being able to chase best available player. And that allowed them to trade down and out of the first rounds, acquire some draft capital, select Logan Hall, who I think is going to be a good pick for them because he can play all along that defensive line. So they have no immediate need to shell out unnecessary cash for Ndamukong Suh when they can have Logan Hall fill that spot. They can kick him on the outside, have him do the edge stuff. So a lot of versatility there. I like it.
So what are the picks that they got for when they traded out?
They traded out. Give me 1 second to look that up. So they traded with Jacksonville. They gave up the 27th pick, and they got the 33rd pick, which they used for Logan Hall. They had pick 106, and they had pick 180. So they got a 4th and a 6th rounder for moving down 6 spots.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I like the Luke Gadecki pick
sorry.
just because Jason Light has done a really good job of drafting offensive line talent. So I don't think anybody should question a small school offensive lineman that he drafts. So I think that's going to be a solid pick. Rachaad White in the 3rd rounds, I really like that selection. He's going to be a receiving threat out of the backfield, which is going to work really well with that offense. I absolutely love how they double dip the tight end position. Now, for a lot of teams, I wouldn't be able to say that. I liked it when Baltimore did it, and I liked it when Tampa Bay did it. The only part I'm upset with is that Cade Otton wasn't available when Green Bay was drafting, because I would have loved to see him be a Packer. But he's a guy who can catch and can block, so he's got a lot he can do. And then when you go into the 12 package, you have O'Keefe, who they drafted in the 6th round, who's going to be your primary blocker. He's your blocking tight end. That's what he's good at. That's where he's going to make his money. So I thought it was a really good draft by Tampa Bay.
I thought it was an okay draft. So I guess we're not going to agree.
I guess not, man.
I thought for what they were looking at, Logan Hall's completely unnecessary. Like, where does he really fit? I know he can play up and down, but with the players they have, where does he really fit? I mean, is he going to be next to Vita Vea? I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, Luke Gadecki, I love that pick. I love it. I think that's a fantastic pick. I thought Rachaad White was a little too rich, a little early, a little rich, and especially with other backs that can do the same thing. Here's the thing. I really like the Cade Otton pick, but considering you took a punter later on, I mean, I don't know. And then Zion McCollum, love that pick. I love the Minnesota tight end. Here's the thing. Knowing who they would have got, I feel weird about this draft. Because, yes, they got Logan Hall and they added Cade Otton. But I know for a fact that if they would have stayed put, they would have gotten Lewis Seen.
They did address the secondary with Zion McCollum, and I think he's going to be a good fit for the team. I know, but you're taking advantage of this draft, and you're getting two more picks. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I get it. You could easily have maneuvered and gotten up instead of taking a punter and still gotten Cade Otton. Or traded back and still got probably Rachaad White.
You notice how I didn't mention the punter at all?
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I noticed you did not mention the punter. So moving through, who is your favorite pick from this draft? I think we both might have the same favorite pick. I don't know. I've got two guys I'm looking at.
I don't think we will have the same favorite pick. I'm going with The fourth running back off the board, third round's Rachaad White. With Leonard Fournette still in town, right? You're thinking running back isn't a need for Tampa Bay. And technically that's true, but something to keep in mind is how does Tampa Bay like to use their running backs? When you were watching Tampa Bay games last year, how many times was Tom Brady passing to Giovanni Bernard? That can't happen anymore. I think Rachaad White is going to be a good fit. He's going to be able to spell Leonard Fournette, and he's going to be able to take on some of that third down work. Sorry, Giovanni. And I believe that Rachaad White led Arizona State in rushing and receiving. That's pretty impressive.
I think Ty Chandler could do the same role who Minnesota took in the 7th round. Just saying. My favorite pick, it's between Luke Gadecki or Zion McCollum, but it's going to be Luke Gadecki. I really like the player. I really like the pick. I really like the fit. I think he's going to start this year. I think he's going to fit right in on what they have going on. He's a very smart player. Yes, small school, but I mean, that doesn't mean much these days.
Sure doesn't.
Least favorite, let's say it together.
Jake Camarda. I don't know why you're drafting punters in the 4th round, but this is the world we live in.
I don't know why you're drafting punters, period.
Just treat it like fantasy football. Wait until the last rounds.
Or get them off the street. All right, moving on. We're going to New Orleans. So the New Orleans Saints only have 5 picks in this draft. So with their first pick, they trade up to get Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Food for thought. Apparently, the Dallas Cowboys were also trying to trade up for Chris Olave. Ooh. Very interesting stuff. Then, pick they acquired from the Eagles. I think this is 19 is the one they acquired from the Eagles.
Yep.
They picked Trevor Penning, offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Then in the 2nd round, they take Alontae Taylor, cornerback out of Tennessee. Then they don't have another pick for a while until the 5th round, where they take DeMarco Jackson, linebacker out of Appalachian State. Sorry, I flaked there for a second, my bad. And then in the 6th round, they took Jordan Jackson, defensive tackle out of Air Force. All right, here's the thing. I know it's not many picks, but I loved pretty much everything they did. I mean, the Air Force pick is a little weird. I have to look this guy up because I don't know him well. But Chris Olave, slam dunk. Trevor Penning, slam dunk. I like Alontae Taylor. I like DeMarco Jackson. I don't know if all these players are worth the resources they gave up to get them. But in this context, I really like this draft. If they make the playoffs, I like this draft even more. Cat Daddy?
All right. Well, the Saints. Some people thought the Saints would enter a rebuild mode after Drew Brees retired, and then you have Sean Payton walking away.
Hell no.
But the Saints are all in this season. I mean, prior to this draft, the Saints gave up 23's first rounder and 24's second rounder just so they could have the 16 and 19 picks. Then during the draft, they traded that 16 pick. They moved up to 11, but to do that, they traded 16. they traded a third, and they traded a fourth to move up 5 spots to get Chris Olave. So they knew Olave was not going to fall to them, especially with the run that was going to happen. And they say that fortune favors the bold, right? Well, this was sure a bold move by Mickey Loomis.
I got a question.
Yep.
I got a question. How much, let's say, confidence does this show that the Saints have in Jameis Winston?
I think it shows a lot, because you're thinking, not only did they pass on falling quarterbacks in the later rounds, they also gave up next year's first, which is when that quarterback class is expected to be bigger, expected to be stronger. You're likely to see multiple first-round selections, multiple top 10 selections, as opposed to this year when number 20, Kenny Pickett, was the first quarterback off the board. So I think it shows a lot of confidence in Jameis Winston. Unless I'm definitely misreading what Mickey Loomis and the team are doing. I see a lot of confidence.
Now, that being said, Jameis Winston won games with who playing wide receiver last year? You should know one of their names. You had them on your fantasy team. It didn't work out.
Marquez Callaway. Yep. Deontay Harris.
You picked up another one.
Well, I had Jawan Johnson. He was at the tight ends. Yeah. They also had Alvin Kamara, and we don't know what Alvin Kamara's situation is going to be like.
Coming into this year, well, yeah, but coming into this year, now they're going to have Chris Olave, Michael Thomas coming off an injury, and Jarvis Landry. And still those other guys that we just talked about, probably in roles that are better suited for them.
Yeah, I mean, they have Alvin Kamara. I think Mark Ingram is still on the roster, too. So they have a good backfield.
Yes,
they replaced Teron Armstead with Trevor Penning. So, I mean, all of this hinges on how successful is Jameis Winston. All of it. Whether they're a playoff team this year or not, I think comes down to Winston.
I mean, they're putting him in position to be successful, which is more than I can say for some other teams in the league. Yes, we're talking about you, Chicago Bears. All right, but time to give our favorite pick and least favorite pick. My favorite pick in this particular class, it is their first pick. It's Chris Olave. You get one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. That's an A+ run. You go up and get him. Good for you. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, Chris Olave is my favorite pick as well. Fills a huge need for the wide receiver position, and this was even before they signed Jarvis Landry. So I think he's going to be a good complement to Michael Thomas. And New Orleans saw that wide receiver run begin, and they weren't going to miss out on him. So this is one of those cases where if you want to give up 2 other draft picks to move up 5 spots to get that guy first rounds, I'm good with that.
My least favorite pick, I hate to say this, 6th rounder is my least favorite pick, but it's Jordan Jackson, defensive tackle of Air Force. Sorry, the word is escaping me, but these military guys, servicemen. These servicemen usually come in a little bit older. We'll see how much he can actually dedicate to the game of football. Maybe he'll be awesome. I don't know.
Yeah, looking at this class, they had 5 selections that they made, and I thought they did a pretty good job with all 5. The thing I like about this draft is that the thing I like least about this draft class is how much overall draft capital they gave up. Not only picks in this current draft, but then they gave up next year, the following year. A lot of confidence in Jameis Winston.
Good. But you can't use that as...
I know. But I think similar to you, it's going to be the Jordan Jackson pick. And it sucks saying, yeah, 6th rounder is my least favorite pick, but it's not necessarily about him, the player. I imagine that they could have gotten him as an undrafted free agent. So, but if they need depth on defense,
all right.
If they need depth and upside at the tackle position, then yeah, Jackson could be a good selection.
All right, so time to rank them, and I think this is going to be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do it a fun way. Let's go last draft that we have the least favorite to first. So who's your least favorite draft?
Of this entire class, my least favorites would be Atlanta.
My least favorite is Tampa. Sorry, there's only technically, yes, there's 3 picks I really, really like, but one of those picks came at the expense of getting a blue chip prospect, in my opinion, and y'all drafted a punter. Sorry. All right, number 3.
Number 3, I am going with the Saints. It's just a lot of overall draft capital that they gave up to get 2 first-rounders in this draft. Yeah.
This is fun. Number 3 for me, Carolina. Yeah, you got a slam dunk with Ikem Ekwamu. Yeah, you got Cade Mays. But in between there, I'm sorry, Matt Corral is going to be wasted there. Sorry, Cat Daddy. He's going to be wasted. And
I know who's the head
Smith,
coach
I do not
there.
see him getting developed there. So maybe I'm wrong. But hey. Now, CJ Henderson also could change this, but he still hasn't lived up to his draft capital either. All right, next up, who's your number 2?
Number 2 is Carolina. I don't think that David Tepper and Scott Fitterer should be praised for how well they drafted a first-round pick, because that was an obvious one. But
this is hilarious.
I do got to say that all of these teams were close, and they weren't close on the good side of the spectrum. It was like, well, you gave up all this draft capital.
They weren't.
So even though I'm giving these like 1,
right.
2 ranks, it doesn't mean I think they're really good.
It's just funny who you're.
I know.
Because you're going to see something hilarious.
I know.
Because guess who my number 2 one is?
Who's number 2?
Can you guess? Go ahead, take a guess.
Atlanta.
No, my number 2 is the Saints. So you already see what I'm laughing about. So with the Saints, I agree with you. It's a lot of capital to give up, but they got some really good players. All of these players, with the exception of maybe Jordan Jackson, will contribute this year. I mean, high impact contributions too. All right, number 1.
Number 1 for me is Tampa Bay. I don't really mind them trading down and out of the first rounds. I don't mind that so much. And for a while there, I had Tampa Bay bouncing back and forth between number 2 and number 1. I really don't like that they drafted a punter in the 4th rounds. But I thought overall they did a really good job.
You just put a draft that has a punter in it. Your number 1 draft in the division. Just saying.
But they did a lot of other things that I liked.
Why you like punters so much, Cat Daddy?
Punters are people too, okay?
My favorite one is the Atlanta Falcons. And I think what comes down here is our difference in opinion of Desmond Ridder. I think that's what this whole draft comes down to, is that difference of opinion.
I don't think it's just Desmond Ridder, but it
think
start the number 8 pick.
We had a similar. Oh, okay. See, I don't mind Drake London at all.
But you have such a big
London
need
is
for offensive
very much up there
line
with the top receivers.
No matter who's quarterback, whether it's Marcus
don't see it
Mariota,
that
whether
way.
it's Desmond Ridder, no matter who's standing back there, no matter who's running back there, you got to give them some blocking, some protection. And taking Justin Schaefer in the 6th round just doesn't move the needle for me.
They don't see it that way. And also, if it's not about that number 8 pick. It's about that number, let's say 38 pick or 58 pick or 52 or 82 pick, because there's multiple areas where they could have got Abraham Lucas in the 2nd round. So, but I'm not going to poo-poo on that. They made very good decisions on some good players. You can't get everything. Here's the problem. When you have one of the worst rosters in the league,
anything's an upgrade.
You don't have the benefit of saying, you know something, we're going to target this position and we're going to upgrade this position. You can't be the Dallas Cowboys and be like, you know something, we like Lewis Seen, he's higher on our board, but we really need that offensive lineman, and Tyler Smith is there. Atlanta doesn't have that that luxury.
They don't have a lot of luxuries, yeah.
Exactly. So just take good players, which I think they did.
But taking Desmond Ridder as the second quarterback
of course,
off
next
the board.
Year, and again, for us, I think between us, it comes down to Desmond Ridder, and I am higher on Desmond Ridder than you are.
But I would have felt better about this Atlanta class had they taken Malik Willis instead of Desmond Ridder.
Well, yes, so would I. I still think it's the best class in this division. Again, like you said, these aren't even the best classes in the NFL. I wouldn't put these classes in my top half. But I do think they took good players, and I do think Desmond Ridder has a path for success. At least he has good coaches.
Taking shots at Matt Corral, I see.
All right, we went a little bit over. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. We went a little bit over. Let's end it here. Good discussion. Good discussion.
All right. Are we going to do our rankings for the division after the draft?
Oh yeah. Let's do the rankings. Let's do the rankings for the division real quick.
All right.
Because we're pushing 50 minutes here.
Are we going 1 to 4 or 4 to 1?
1 to 4.
1 to 4. Number 1, Tampa Bay. As long as they have Tom Brady back there, they're number 1 in the division. There shouldn't be any question about it.
Yeah.
Number 2, provided Jameis Winston stays healthy for a full season,
shouldn't be a question either.
New Orleans. Number 3 and 4, I think Atlanta takes 3, just because I have more faith and confidence in Arthur Smith as a head coach than I do Matt Rule, which means Carolina rounds out. Carolina's in the basement. That's what it is.
All right, so Tampa, Tom Brady, enough said. And their roster is already fully loaded. We'll see what Chris Godwin is like coming off that injury, but it's still a fully loaded roster. New Orleans going all in with Jameis Winston. I mean, they already own Tampa. We'll see what happens here. Then, I'm going Atlanta because, let's see, who do I like more, Marcus Mariota or Sam Darnold? Marcus Mariota. Do I like Arthur Smith or Matt Rule? Arthur Smith. I mean, let's be honest. Carolina's got 2 players on their roster that you trust. Maybe 3. Now, other than that, dumpster fire. At least Atlanta's making good choices. Other than apparently Desmond Ridder, but hey.